We're talking about big, massive, thunderous explosions in today's video. Spell Spotlight. I find that, so when I did Bane and Bless, I realized, oh, I talked about 2 different spells, and that was like maybe 3 to 4 minutes of content. We're going to start grouping together some of the smaller ones so that we can cover a lot more ground more quickly, and so that you guys don't have to watch individual videos of Thunderclap, Thunderwave, Thunderous Smite, and Shatter. Which is the 4 spells we're going to talk about today, and maybe more if they just suddenly pop into my head. There's probably more than 4 Thunder spells, but I guess we'll get onto those as they go along. We're really just pulling from memory here. A lot of these videos I just kind of rattle off the top of my head, and they seem to work most of the time. I find that I'm often wrong though. We're still in the bedroom, and this is probably going to be our setup from now on because the pavilion is too spooky. Thunderclap, Thunderwave, Shatter, Thunderous Smite. We're going to talk about those spells because they're kind of all basically the same. They do almost the same thing. Here's a few common traits among them. They're all doing thunder damage. Whoa. They all involve some level of a constitution save because it's basically very loud booms in your ears and you try not to just get deafened. They can also involve pushes, pulls, and the like. Some of them involving moving enemies around, repositioning, because sound sometimes is that big that it blasts you away in D&D Magic World, apparently, which I can appreciate. I can respect that. So the first one on our lists is a cantrip. I believe this is the first cantrip I've covered in this series. It's going to be very simple to listen to. Some cantrips are a lot more complicated, like Mind Sliver. I really like it, don't get me wrong, but don't give a new player Mind Sliver, they're not going to know what the fuck it is and how good it is. Thunderclap, it's very simple. So, this is one of the very few spells sitting next to fucking Counterspell, because you can Counterspell in silence, that doesn't have verbal components, and it doesn't have material either. It's just a clap. There's many ways that you can flavour this. Clapping your ass cheeks, of course, is the best one, and if you don't cast Thunderwave by clapping your ass cheeks, then you're not a real nerd. Only one action, and it's a 5-foot range. Basically, it's a small burst of thunder localized within 5 feet of you, just all around. And just with a simple clap of your hands, you're dealing a d6 of thunder damage to everyone who doesn't succeed a Constitution saving throw that's within 5 feet of you. And it's everyone except you. So that means that if another body's there, they're going to get hit by the thunder, and they're just going to have to deal with that. These sorts of cantrips are somewhat conditional, but can really, really help. There was a character, I believe it was either Thunderclap or Sword Burst, where it's just like a little 5-foot within, around you. They used that in an encounter with a bunch of blights, and oh my god, they all just shredded. It was amazing. Now, here's the theme that you're going to notice. It creates sound that can be heard up to 100 foot away. Sound in D&D is a bit weird because unless someone's seeing things happening, they're not really actually interacting with it. Even if, I like to run this to give players a little bit more freedom in how they take stuff, even if they're in a cave network and about 100 foot in the next cave, even though sound would echo to that next section, and there's creatures in one and creatures in the other, but they have a fight in one, and there's definitely screams of war going on, I don't normally rule that the other one's going to hear them, so that the party can still approach the next encounter with a little bit more of a weary eye and perhaps try and stealth in still. Let people do what they want, man. Don't turn every dungeon crawl into just a massive sprawling battle in a dungeon unless they have alarm systems put up. That's fun. But this sort of spell is the one that negates that. There's very specific scenarios that have absolutely screwed players over when they were doing, like, not necessarily stealth missions, but certainly stuff out of the way, and one of them casted a thunder spell, and it went boom, obviously, and bad things happened. Sometimes they don't, depending on what time they do it and where they do it. But yeah, 100 feet is actually very generous in terms of distance, because the other thunder spells get a little less merciful as you go down the list. Also, I forgot to mention, pretty much every spellcaster can take Thunderclap, I think. Almost all of them. lot of cantrips to go around these days, you know. Let's talk about the next one, Thunder Wave. This is Thunderclap, but Chad. Basically, it is from yourself in a 15-foot cube instead, radiating from you, if you would. This depends on how the DM rules it, or maybe there's a rule for it, I don't know. But it says here, a 15-foot cube originating from you. This could mean that it is literally just the same 5-foot range around you if your DM rules, oh, it's a cube and it's on you. So, and if it's a 15-foot cube, then it's 3 squares across, which means it's only 5 foot around you. But I would personally rule that it extends 3 squares out from you. It extends 15 feet from you in every direction. Just to kind of give it a little more oomph, I think. Because if it's that, it's also weird because it's worded differently to Thunderclap. So like, I don't know. That's something different. This one's a casting time of an action and it has verbal and somatic components. So this is another con save for a total of 2d8 thunder damage. Better damage, way better damage. Pretty decent on the level of Burning Hands, except in just a different range. But something else important to note is that if they fail that con save, they're also going to be blasted 10 foot back. There is that other audible boom, the big explosion, the point of this series, or at least this episode of this series, apologies, is that things go boom. This one booms in a 300-foot range around the sound. So it gets more extreme as you level up the spells, basically. Because they're bigger thunders. Makes sense. Alright, next up is Thunderous Smite, which is a very exclusive paladin thing, but there's also like 3 or 4 subclasses for classes that you can take which give you smites. Smites aren't exactly the most exclusive thing in the world to paladins, but they certainly have them all, except Eldritch Smite. So this smite, most smites I think, are only verbally componented. And this one's a bonus action, and it's concentration up to a minute. So these aren't instantaneous effects. However, this one is a one and done, despite you being able to hold the spell for up to a minute. So, basically, how smites work is you cast the smite on your weapon, and then you roll to attack. And if you hit, the smite takes effect. With this one, it does a big old 300-foot boom, like the other one, and it does an extra 2d6 thunder damage to the target. Not as good as Thunderwave, but Thunderwave is exclusively, like, you're not getting any weapon damage on top of that. So for single target thunder stuff, Thunderous Smite is very good. Give that to your paladin. Additionally, if the target is a creature, it's got to succeed a strength save, or it's going to be pushed 10 foot back and knocked prone. That is good. Because then, if you do that at the right initiative on the right person, you've got an entire round of someone being prone, and you can just wail on them. Prone is a condition that you really have to plan to be effective. So, stuff like Command, where on the next turn that someone has, they go prone, you've got an entire round of combat to just wail on them. Plan your prone right, because people can just stand up. It's the easiest condition to get out of, because you're just on the floor. We are on to the last one I'm going to talk about today, Shatter. This one has all of the good components, verbal, somatic, and material. The material component being a chip of mica. I have no idea what that is. Let's Google it. It's like a mineral, basically. This is the biggest thunder spell. It has a range of 60 feet, and it is a 10-foot radius sphere. Biggest boom on this list, if you ask me. Casting time of 1 action. And it's second level. We're going on to second level, folks. So, this, funnily enough, is the biggest boom spell, and it doesn't do the whole 100, 300 sound emission. It's a very concentrated explosion of sound, which means it does 3d8 thunder damage, and all the targets need to make a constitution saving throw against it. It's very good at taking out inorganic material. So, I believe it does damage to structures, non-magical objects that aren't being worn or carried, and creatures made of like stone, metal, crystal have disadvantage on the saving throw. Any construct I believe, is going to have disadvantage, unless they're... maybe Flesh Golems might be able to get away with it. I'm not sure about all the others though. But yeah, upcasting Shatter early game can be amazing. You could be dishing out 48 thunder damage to a 10-foot radius sphere is decent range. Decent range. It's not fireball range, but it's decent range. And considering that the damage ain't bad either. Spells, I find, basically, if you were to take a graph of like how insane spells get as they go up, it would be like, so cantrips, first level spells, second level, third level, fourth, and it goes up like that very suddenly when you get around 3 or 4, and then kind of hovers around 6 and 7, and then dips a little bit around 8 and 9, weirdly, in terms of like the big damage ones at least. Fireball and lightning bolt is really where it peaks, but then you've also got stuff like chain lightning. I'll certainly talk about all the fire and lightning spells because there's a lot more of those, but we're starting with thunder. A lot of classes can take a lot of these spells. If you're interested in picking them up, check out if the character that you're playing can take them. The Bard definitely can, except Thunderous Smite. Bards are very thunderous. They make a lot of noise. That's something that's a common theme with their spells. I believe every Bard spell has verbal components, which is a nice little detail, I think. If not every single one of them do, then I'm disappointed. Thunderclap, I just talked about it. Wow, that's annoying. 0 out of 10. Bard worst class. I've never actually played a Bard, I might want to. Your wizard can obviously cast pretty much all of these, as well as I believe druids. Druids are harnessing the elements, you know? And I guess that these are, like, thunder isn't? No, thunder is not an element. Thank you for watching Magical Tea Party, where we talk about the big boom spells. I'm very much enjoying... I think I managed to make the video a little bit longer so that it's a bit more watchable, if you know what I mean. Like, I don't know, I feel like I'd rather watch a series of spells in one video than like... Because if we get monetized eventually, so many ads, it'd be so unnecessary. So yeah, that's that. Thank you for watching. Please make sure you... what is it, the thing you're supposed to do? I feel like you need to hit buttons. Psych, Moment, and hit Dedel.
There's one more.
There's one more what? I don't know. You gotta do the other thing. That's gonna be fun for you to edit. Ba-da-ba-ba-da.